just gonna loosen up for a second.
Oh, me too.
So Lisa, how's that coffee doing for you there?
Oh my gosh, it's really good. It's helping clean out the pipes, as it were. Have I already rendered you speechless this early?
It wasn't where I was gonna go, but it should have been. You know what I mean? Hey, welcome, folks, and thank you for listening. This is Melrose Madness. My co-host is the wonderful Lisa.
Thank you. Hi, and my co-host is the wonderful Wayne. And behind the cameras, you have the mysterious, the illustrious Chris and Ilana.
And joining as a special guest this week are Conan and McLean, our cats.
And producers. They are.
Yeah, they've demanded a credit.
They saw the last episode and said, "Hey, this is absolutely not what we discussed. We actually need to be there when you guys are filming because you're getting off track. Lisa, you're whipping that arm around that's injured. What's going on?"
Safety coordinators as well.
Exactly.
This is powerful. So here we are. This is season 1, episode 2 of Melrose Madness, where we are giving a little bit of a deep read of season 1, episode 2 of Melrose Place, the 1990s young adult evening soap, so to speak. Here we have Friends and Lovers, Lisa.
Friends and Lovers. What a great non-cliche 90s title for an episode.
The 90s cliches are in this one, and it starts with an episode title that sounds like some sort of 90s indie rom-com. We like to get granular with this stuff. The pilot had a different set of main credits than this one. We now, I think, are establishing the main credits. So it's going to go for a little while. And the addition of the shot of Billy seeming to walk down the street and like touching a stranger and greeting him.
That he does that.
It encapsulates Billy better than some of the stuff with Michael encapsulates Michael. I think that's something that's cool to do.
I completely agree. I mean, you're absolutely right, because is this where is Michael shoving the spaghetti into Jane's mouth in this one?
I think it was in the pilot and popped out and maybe pops back in. I didn't see it this time, but I forget to look for it, and then I see it and I'm very delighted.
You're absolutely right, because I do feel like Billy's is just so weird. I feel like it's so funny because LA is not like people joke no one walks in LA. So it's not like this trope that we're walking down the streets of LA and going, "Hey,
right.
Howdy to you, buddy, howdy to you." It's like if somebody touched me like that on the street, I would be like, "What's going on? Are you trying to fight me? Are you gonna mug me? What's happening? I don't like this."
Yeah, like
I don't want to go see that free movie screen.
I'm not interested in a free e-meter reading.
No.
Thank you. No.
Oh my god.
And I know we didn't talk about it in the first episode, so I'm going to talk about it now. Just Jake, when Grant's show is in the opening credits, he plays, as we call him, Jake Handsome.
Yes.
Jake Hansen, and Jake at the fridge is just, I think, inspiring. The glow, the electric glow off of his sculpted abs.
Jake Absum.
Yeah.
I imagine because he looks at it and then doesn't he like close it because there's nothing he wants.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I imagine that if there's a loaf of bread. There's a loaf of bread and he's like, the minute I don't have to be on television, I'm gonna eat that bread. And guess what? This man is still on television. That bread is probably still waiting.
Wonder Bread does have, if it's that I know there's a long,
Exactly, shelf life.
But
yeah, Jake, it's so funny. He really was just hired for his abs.
I'm not mad at him. So I think when we talk about Friends and Lovers, I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time talking about like the plot lines as they are, because they're, to me, so lame.
Yes.
There's a pool party in this episode. and I think we want to live in the pool party, but
Yeah.
to sort of get it out of the way, our A story involves Billy with this whirlwind romance and Allison sort of her space being invaded legitimately, but also
Very
this
legitimately.
jealousy and all the things that come with Allison being Allison, our young ad exec to be in her mind.
Ingenue.
Yeah, she's just Midwest ingenue, so Billy's now a cab driver to make money.
Which
Doesn't make a ton of sense.
No, and I thought, as people who have been living in LA since before the advent of these rideshare apps, I thought there was some real like false advertising for people living outside of Los Angeles who are watching this show, because have you ever ridden in a cab here in LA? How many cabs have you ridden in?
2 tops in
how many years?
I'm not gonna. It's going on 30, I think.
Right,
so,
going on 30 years. So it is so hilarious that Billy has the most bullshit jobs. Like he's a dance instructor. He's a lesson ahead of
the
class.
class with the Arthur Murray, yeah.
And suddenly he's a cab driver, which is actually kind of an involved job. Like you have to get like a license. You have to invest in this cab.
I mean, that's another case where he's just faking it till he's like lied about his proficiency with the geography, I'm sure, because he's just like, it was a Thomas guide, which was a thing, guys, we used to have to carry around, at least in LA.
Oh, that's a great
point. Book of just maps of like the whole area, and it was kind of a magical thing, but it doesn't make sense anymore.
No, it totally doesn't make sense, and I don't believe that Billy would have. I don't think he would have known that part of LA.
No,
because he was Valley.
He's a Valley boy.
And I also did have to point out though that I can't shit on Billy's style whatsoever, because like he dresses almost exactly how I dressed at that time. I was 12, like the front pleat khaki shorts, the like boxy stripy t-shirts. I totally clocked that's the
vaguely nautical
soccer shirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he was number 7. My sister was number 7, so I think he might have been like a midfielder. That's a lot of running, guys. But yeah, I may have even had that haircut.
It warms the heart to imagine 12-year-old Lisa essentially being Billy's body double.
Yeah, I have pretty pointy shoulders. I'm a little boxy here. Like, we see it.
Well, our listeners won't see it. Imagine. I'm not going to describe my co-host's shoulders to you, but I guess
I find them squarish.
What?
I'm not opposed. His are crazy.
Yeah. It is.
He's me with shoulder pads.
Yeah. No. I don't want to body shame anybody, but yes, it's distracting how much Billy's just a rectangle as a torso.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is watching him in a suit, holding a briefcase, walking. Anytime he's had to do that, guys,
it's
sorry,
it
should be in the spoiler section, but like watching Billy play businessman, because when he finally does get a job where he wears a suit, is insane. Like I feel like he doesn't. He's thinking. You can see this man thinking about when to move his arm and his feet. Like you can tell that. Like, do you remember when Jack Donaghy on 30 Rock is at a certain point holding 2 coffee mugs because he had to be on camera for like this short little spot and he didn't know what to do with his hands? I feel like that's Billy with a briefcase. He's just like, oh God, it's too much business.
It gives one the impression that he's been given one too many things to do at the same time. That the multitask engine is.
He's also sucking on a mint
at top
like,
RPM.
He's like, I can't. It's too many things.
I would nominate the B plot to be Jake's just rage is essentially the plot
bureaucratic rage
mixed with the continuation, unfortunately, of his entanglement with Kelly.
Yeah,
a teen from 90210, The Hinge. I don't know what to say about that. It's the sooner we get rid of that, and Lisa, you made a good point before about just the entire vibe of that being about what's acceptable
Yeah, for the time.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I mean, I think not this doesn't jump ahead too much. It's just a snapshot. It comes from the party, but it pertains to what you're talking about. When Steve, Ian Ziering's character,
Yes.
gets hit on, his response is perfect. He goes, "I'm in high school." Which that I mean, that says
It's something
everything.
that's
It's
just
all being-
funny. Like, I'm a weird where I will analyze what's funny about something.
Yes.
And I can't fully even tell you what's funny about it, other than it's not the obvious irony of 28-year-old Ian Ziering popping that line,
Exactly.
and then they pop from a weird smirky close-up out to him shirtless, having a 28-year-old man's physique, as far as I can tell.
And whatever that hair is doing is delighting me to no end. It's like a cloud that's hanging on to the back of his neck.
It all happens together, and there's some secret sauce in that line reading and that shot.
Those
That's
shorts,
hilarious.
those polka dot shorts,
Um,
all of it, magic.
See, this is what I mean about the pool party: is you want to get there.
You want to get there as quickly as possible.
We thought, producer Ilana and I thought it'd be interesting to just talk briefly about like the unemployment office as a setting for this episode for it to be a plot line.
Yes.
Jake out of work needs to go to the unemployment office, and I think nowadays the question is, what is that even?
Oh my gosh, right? I mean, even right before pandemic, I feel like you were more prone to have to maybe go in or have an interview. But now everything, like everything is so online that it feels completely unthinkable to have to go to a DMV like place where oh my god, by the way, these
That gentleman.
extras,
Yes.
extras. I noted that I feel like all the scenes with the extras had Jenny Garth on the call sheet, meaning that 90210 money for those days was budgeted where she could be in the expensive shots where she's showing up with the checkbook and stuff. But it's this begins a long and storied, well, I guess episode 1.
Yeah.
These
Peggy-
extras have my heart. These are the most wacky extras.
Yeah, so what we're talking about in particular, the time code for those who want to try and do that is
Please.
1344 in the episode.
A queen.
We're getting to the complication where Jake starts an altercation in the unemployment office, and he's on his way to jail then, and there's this. I don't know how to describe her. There's the blonde wig, there's the hat, there's the look on her face, including toucan.
Yes. Oh,
Down the barrel.
The weird flower dress. I posited that the hair is attached to the hat. I feel like there's a wig attached to that hat. Producer Ilana yes-anded me, upping the ante, suggesting that yes, she believes this is the case because then you can't tell her to take the hat off. Without losing that hair.
Yeah, the wacky hat, because underneath that blonde hair is red hair from
And
when
a
you saw her
big-
last
a big
episode. It's
spider
pretty funny.
tattoo and like
She's
tentacles.
she has cracked the Da Vinci Code of Melrose Place extra dumb and pulled her focus
I
so
mean,
strongly.
Jake was literally in a fight, and all I could
you
see
see?
was this Betsy Johnson like
Yes.
figure down the
That's-
barrel. I mean, the woman found her angle. It was amazing.
It's like someone's like, oh, fashion idols, mine's Raggedy Ann, kind of, and it does give this air of like, who is that, Betsy Johnson? So yeah, that's an unemployment office, and that's the kind of thing you can expect to see in an unemployment office, I suppose.
Oh, it was wild, and I loved it.
and we have what I think is a low point for television as our C plot of our C plot entirely is Jane is sad
Oh God,
because Michael can't remember the moment that he fell in love with her.
which is so dumb.
It's of all the contrivance is neither is busted. On
The best-
that one, I think.
The thing about this that I absolutely love is not. I don't think this has to be in a spoiler, but like just knowing what we know about where these characters end up, it is it's just such a funny time where you can really enjoy the writers kind of figuring out. Really, I think through Michael and Jane is where you get the final tone of the show, because they both live there. They are the only married people in this complex. They're supposed to, I think they were trying to go for like, do you remember 30 something? I never watched it, but exactly. My parents were 30 something when 30 something came out.
Yeah.
So they were watching it. I think 30 something was like right before, and they were trying to I think they were trying to have them be the like more mature people because they're married. And as a result, it's so boring because they're like, I feel like they had to find the middle ground between let's date teenagers or let's fight about the time that you're, you couldn't remember when you fell in love with me. It's like somewhere in the middle is.
Sorry, I'm gonna clear my throat a little.
But yeah, they're so boring. Like, who gives a shit? You can't remember when you fell in love with, like, I can't. I mean, that's
it's a problem to have
around.
Yeah,
the whole time.
I'm sorry, guys. This is not fun podcasting listening.
You're fine.
Just getting verklempt talking about it. No. So yeah, Sandy, Matt, and Rhonda largely sidelined.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. They're only at the pool party. Well, no,
Sandy's at Shooters.
Sandy's a shooter. She's still doing the Southern accent. The funny thing is, they never.
She's gonna be.
She's
gonna be.
She's gonna be.
I shouldn't do that. I'm sorry. That's kind of how she. Look.
She does say she's from South Carolina.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the accent's still happening. It's still happening, and I have to say, I feel like I finally realized that she and Billy, they are the nostril actors. If you need to know what they're feeling, look at the nose. And it's just like,
these are subtleties that I, as not being so much an actor, just miss.
oh, well,
It's all in the nose with these.
It's all in the nose with these guys. Just follow the nose.
I want to follow the nose to the pool party.
Please.
And there's a lot more to say about Ian Ziering. He
oh my God.
he steals every part of it that he's in, including just sort of crossing under as we're craning in or whatever they do. So yeah, a species that will become rare in the future, and it's spoilers, and we will actually do a bonus spoiler for those who aren't afraid of talking ahead for this episode, as is going to be our custom, I think. We're going to try and keep it confined to the bounds of the episode in case you're watching along with us.
For the first timers.
Yeah. But so Ian Ziering is here. He is another part of the Hinge from 90210, and he and Sandy are hanging out because he might represent Hollywood opportunity as a teen lad in world in 90210.
We were discussing the layers, the fourth wall happening here. So it's such an interesting thing to watch because his character, as he says, hey, I'm in high school. So he's a teenager. But the actor playing him is, what, in his late 20s? Mid-late 28. It's 28 at this point. So we as the audience, I mean, he looks like a 28-year-old.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So,
nothing,
and so I'm not. So you're not bumping as much. So then there's the power dynamic as well. So this woman is older than him, and he seems to be stringing her along Hollywood producer style.
Yeah.
In order to get what he wants. So
these 90210 kids, they're very advanced. They get it. They're going to bribe their way into Shooters.
Yes.
And they're going to just see how far things go with this Southern Belle.
So
right?
I think this sounds to me like a very advanced level word problem to determine who's the perpetrator of the problematic behavior here, because I don't even know anymore. It's only in LA. I feel like would you find a weird power dynamic like that where a teenager could actually hold in his hormonal hands a 20-something. She actually looks younger than him.
Money will do that for you, I guess. It's, that's one reading.
Oh my gosh. This is like a crazy sidebar. It'll be really short, I promise. Have you ever seen the J-Lo movie, The Boy Next Door?
Sad to say I have, but I only remember, I know there's sort of a climactic moment in a barn involving farm machinery.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
We're talking about the same film.
The same movie. I feel like there's a similar thing happening where The Boy Next Door is inherently a problematic movie because it's this teacher, and they do this whole thing where they make it where I think he's supposed to be college age, and she just like looks great for her age, but the whole time the escandalo of her being with him is lost on me because both of them look to be about 35.
Yeah, they're kind of you're watching
visually-
peers. Yeah,
Yeah.
your disbelief remains unsuspended. At this moment.
100%. And
And
so
it's likewise, you don't get as squicked out this way Jenny Garth is playing a teen.
I think a lot of it is visually, aesthetically, she just reads more to her age than
I'm sure that there's plenty of comment at the time, but he
he reads like Matthew McConaughey's character in Dazed and Confused.
but somehow it's in reverse.
So not in reverse, but he's just been at the
That's what I love about them actresses. They're about one age, and I continue to get older over time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still somehow
That's why
between
McConaughey.
extorting.
Yeah. Yes. Well, just and somehow here again, the everybody sucks here of it all. He is managed to be a little bit of a creep. He's looking at her headshots and it was, yum. That's the word he
yes.
uses. Yum.
Again,
And
if you had a gun to my head
Yeah.
and you said you need to name the problematic person in this situation, I would go, I don't know.
it's just like that Spider-Man gif.
Yes.
And yeah, I have this theory, this vision, not I think watching 90210 much or at all, that in this case Steve it is
Yes.
in World.
Steve.
Sees Sandy as this gateway just to kind of like an informal anthropological study of how the other half lives. Like at some point, I think he's given up on getting
How the
laid,
other 95%
Yeah,
lives.
just kind of like so. What's the young world of the poor, but interesting and attractive.
Yes.
Like he's got it. And I think that because there is this kind of bemusement on his face, and then as Marcy,
Yes.
our interloper comes in. It starts to become more and more cringes. You can
Yes.
see on him, which
Yeah, you do watch his if we were in Steve's coming of age movie where he's like being like, I wonder if my life's too sheltered. Maybe I need to go out and like be like that goofball who showed up on the motorcycle at Kelly's house the other day. I wonder what his life's like. Why is Kelly so in my head? Steve's like, what's
yeah.
Kelly?
What
What's Kelly? Because
is-
remember, oh wait, I'm saying remember. You don't know this, but in the universe, like, Steve, has pined for Kelly,
Uh-huh.
and so
Understandable.
understandable, and that's something he can't bring to the table that Dylan has brought to the table before. So I could totally see Steve being like, I can do the tough guy thing, and immediately going, nope, I can't. This is not me. I have to be true.
I feel
to my
like
golden curls.
I got some stuff on me, possibly.
Ugh,
That
poor.
would-
Ugh, gross.
Okay,
You seem like-
producer Ilana will be remiss. Anyways, she would be unhappy if we didn't mention the slip-in that Sandy has been trained in acting by Charles Nelson Reilly.
That is, I thank you for pointing that out because that's what I love about these episodes.
Yeah.
There are layers. There are things that you go back. For those of you children who have zero idea who Charles Nelson Reilly is, if you Google it, just Google, find a clip of this man speaking and know that this Southern belle, imagine her doing Tennessee Williams monologues in the style of Charles Nelson Reilly.
And I'm not going to try it because it'll sound homophobic.
No, I can't.
Charles Nelson Reilly is a talented actor and a funny man, and like the way he sticks in my memory is this legacy of being like center square on Hollywood Squares. Possibly couldn't actually find evidence of this on YouTube. But
It's been struck from the record.
I don't know, but it was like the Match Game was a big one where it was just a fun '70s format show where they throw opportunities for celebrities to do
I mean,
probably pre-written jokes, but
the thing
Charles
that
Nelson Reilly has a shtick.
is a game show.
Yeah.
So she's getting acting classes from someone whose big claim to fame was being on a game show. And the other thing about that, like imagine Gilbert Gottfried giving acting classes. I love Gilbert Gottfried, but I can't imagine anyone learning how to. I'm imagining them doing the like a bunch of Gilbert Gottfrieds going out into the world.
Well, yeah, like I guess what you're identifying is we see Charles Nelson Reilly, who's also a gay man. I think in some ways quite courageously going out there and just being himself.
Oh, listen,
And
Charles
like
Nelson Reilly contains multitudes, actually, and probably would have been. The thing is, it is just a very specific choice for this show.
No, it is. I think you hit the nail on the head with Gilbert Gottfried. It's like imagining a very persona-driven performer.
Yes.
What do you just teach a class of aspiring actors to be like sort of droll and you know?
Well, here's the thing. I think you're getting into the reality of it. 'Cause I actually think Charles Nelson Reilly could have been an excellent acting teacher. However, we are talking about a show on CBS for Middle America.
Fox.
Oh, for Fox.
It's owned by CBS now.
okay.
This is how we get the
Apologies.
confusion.
Now that everyone owns everybody else.
Yeah,
It's
right,
company number 2, not company number
it's-
1 owns this.
Yeah, it's like the thing where the cartoon man eats his own head.
But my
Has
thing
happened
is,
since then.
But my thing is, okay, because I'd like to do this. We're in the writer's room, okay?
Yeah.
We're like, Sandy, okay, guys, I need a pitch for the class that Sandy's being taught by. Who's teaching it? Charles Nelson Reilly. That makes total sense because when we think about the auditions that Sandy's going out for, and also, by the way, we are making this up. We don't have to get, oh, wait a minute. I just realized something. Okay. You're in the writer's room. You're throwing out names. Are you throwing out names of guest stars that you think you could reasonably get and then you don't?
Oh,
Because
yes.
I'm also thinking, why wouldn't you just say the Meisner technique? Why are you mentioning somebody? Do we think that if you wrote on this show, or you were a PA or script coordinator, or you understand anything about the conceptualizing of how Charles Nelson Reilly got chosen as a teacher to mention, I would love this corroborated.
We will be a clearinghouse for inside scoop type stuff. So yeah, please. I think if you go to our website where this MP3 is posted, there's a contact us section. This is where you can click on and email us. Is that how it's done?
That's 100% how it's done.
I think that's
Go
how it's done.
outside, scream, and we will throw a box full of information at your doorstep. That is how technology works these days.
Well, however it's done, hit us up as
Hit us up, yo.
as the kids say. Yeah, and I think that pool party still we see Thomas Calabro doing some really like fun comedic work in the background.
Oh yes.
Party is happening. We're
His
gonna
little
get to
landlord
Marcy.
binder is
Certainly, yeah, and he's doing plumbing repair.
Or building
As
teacher.
this was part of the Jake's Mad storyline that his shower got cold and oh boy did he storm out in nothing but a towel.
Oh my god, he was so angry. I said he had really wanna fuck energy.
Yeah, he was just
Try
like
fuck? If I'm wet, angry, in a towel, and knocking on someone's door in Melrose Place, I mean, it's basically
It's-
like, sup.
yeah, that
You up?
anger's an energy
Anger's
that
an
you're
energy.
bringing to the situation, and
Yes.
it's very easy once you're in someone's room
And
for
glistening.
that and glistening as he was, and just being Jake all over
Oh, just
and under.
shaking so hard.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is when he's angry, he seems like he's like coming on.
Uh-huh.
But if he's trying to flirt with somebody, it's actually awful.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Oh, the
Yeah.
thing he does with his jaw when
Oh
he's
my God.
propositioning Sandy at Shooters, as just sort of like he's frustrated with the Kelly situation. She's bailed him out of jail, and he's mad about it because he's angry all episode.
He's always so mad.
Yeah, he throws her some lines and some looks that can only work for the handsomest man.
It has to be. Also, he is kind of goofy on that motorcycle. Like, I was real nervous about him going down that driveway. I felt that he was like, just get through the frame. Once you're out of the frame, you can stop it. they're not going to make you put it on a kickstand. Just keep going.
I,
Go
I-
towards the stunt coordinator. He'll help you.
I think properly Jake is like Fonzie, maybe in their minds, but they dressed him, to my memory. Didn't do research on this part. Sorry, guys. Sorry, listeners who like a well-researched show.
Get out of here.
Do a little bit now, man. He looks kind of like Marlon Brando did in those Wild Ones, a biker, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the wrong. They did a throwback and they threw back too far, and he got to shit like his helmet that just makes you look like a nerd, like he was doing cosplay of he was on his way to the Marlon Brando impersonator convention.
Well, yes, he because Marlon Brando didn't do a lot of scoffing, and Jake does this. He goes,
Yeah.
he's a little too pouty.
Well, it's not his performance; it's just the look, and I believe that to be the crux of the error in the look is that
Well, he's giving you Luke Perry. Like he's
Yeah,
Dylan.
yeah.
He's like 30-something-year-old Dylan, or I
Yeah.
guess late 20s. I
Look,
don't know. But yeah,
he's like 26 here, and we will dig into this at some point. But at some point, it's established, I'm told from Wikipedia, that on 90210, Jake was a bit of a mentor to Dylan. So which is I think in its way like sort of like if you're thinking about the hinge point, like it's sort of like, well, who's the baddest ass in town? The guy who showed Dylan pick up girl.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah. Well, toxic masculinity was never went out of style.
no. It's a neutral.
At the party, Marcy has the most lines.
Oh
the
my
most,
god.
the densest set of lines. Marcy is now the curly-haired paramour of our Billy, our will they, won't they with Allison, roommates. Can they be roommates is a question here.
Will they be friends
Yeah,
and lovers?
which let's talk about how terrible Marcy is,
I
and
would love
then
to
we
do
can
that.
talk about maybe the way some of this typifies and is a snapshot of an era. So Marcy is walking around telling people what's in Jake's medicine cabinet, and like more so in detail how he gets it done in the sack.
Oh, how Billy does.
Billy, Jesus.
Billy.
Thank you.
Also, yes, she's telling everybody's business all of the time. The funny thing is about Marcy is she's incredibly pushy and what have you, but really no one involved tells her no. No one ever sets a single boundary. No one ever expresses a clear directive to this woman.
It's all by suggestion. It's like,
the
oh,
most
I've got
passive-aggressive-
some writing to do. Billy never has writing to do.
Billy, you can't read. Let's be real. This is why you're driving a cab. He's guessing.
The misogynist Norman Mailer paperback is just
Oh
sort
my
of
God.
his own sort of personal art department for himself, for the persona he's trying to create as the writer to be.
Well, by the way, this is absolutely no shade to people who can't read, because I would not hold that against anybody. However, I would find it very much in Billy's character to have completely lied about an entire skill, because
No,
he
yes.
wants to stay one lesson ahead of everybody.
Yeah, right, yes. Adult illiteracy is in its way no laughing matter, because there are reasons why it gets to that point. They're usually sad ones. But yes, Billy is absolutely like it's just bluff and float.
Just coasting.
Coasting through life, one thing to the next.
Oh my gosh, but Marcy.
Marcy.
But the thing about Marcy that really is just, yes, she's very annoying, but everyone is so passive aggressive and completely unwilling to literally just say to this person, hey, you can't move in with me after we've slept together one time.
Please don't use my deodorant, as a matter of fact.
Oh my God. That's the thing that drove me crazy is Allison, Marcy goes, hey, Allison, can I use your deodorant? And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Like, no, you absolutely should not ask that. And then Allison goes, Billy? She's like so annoyed and rolls her eyes. And I'm like, what? I would have had no problem being like, hey, Marcy, is it? with, sorry, dude. No, that's my, I don't know you. You can't use my deodorant. I just met you. This is awkward. Whatever. But lines.
As someone who's deeply passive aggressive, I unfortunately in this instance can relate to the Allison
I'm
of it
so
all.
sorry.
And just a fear of confrontation, fear of asking for what you want, fear of telling people, no, you can't do that around me or to me. You get raised. Wait, I'm not going to get into that. That sounds like
Yes, you can.
No.
This is what a podcast is.
Just I come from very polite people, but like politeness also goes too far. I don't know.
Yes, you know what?
And then you're not even being polite, as Allison was just being like shitty,
Yes.
but like just in an under her breath, postural sort of like classic Allison.
Well, I think you actually bring up a really interesting point, which I really like, because you and I have very, very different views and perspectives and upbringings, culturally and otherwise. So again, as a 12-year-old girl watching these interactions, I'm going, this is how adults interact. Also, nobody's telling me who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. I'm deciding based on people's behavior. So it's really funny to me to see that, like, I wanted to initially start this podcast whole idea was based in Allison is the worst.
Yeah.
And so the idea that, like, whoever I think you think is the worst is more of like, not that there's a right answer or a wrong answer, that it is like a tarot card. It is your horoscope sign. It's some goofy personality quiz that's literally telling you that based on your experiences, like, I think it's funny that I'm like, oh, that Marcy's way too much. She's pushing, but also this is how a person ends up like this, where literally no one's ever stopped her. But then, you have more of the perspective of the person who's been pushed upon and doesn't know how to. So it's just,
Yeah.
I just again, this show, multitudes.
It's something I very much admire about you, Lisa, is your ability to be direct. Full stop.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, but that's why this doesn't make sense to you, is because there's some of us where being direct is very difficult. And just so on Marcy, I want to talk about the specific one where she's like, glad that the bed had really strong springs.
Girl, what is your life? Because where were you going?
This dental student.
This dental student, that's right. Also, what a weird way to like talk about what you do for a living. She like made Allison guess. It was so weird.
And officially, we've established in Marcy's mind that a dental student is better than a teacher.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was,
I forgot she said.
And we were musing about. Lisa pointed this out in line with Allison being the worst. That when engaged in a guessing game by someone who annoys you about what their occupation might be, you say astronaut and brain surgeon.
Yeah, and astronaut. First of all, why would she be in LA? She should be in Cape Canaveral.
Well, I mean, it's an attempt to be witty, but there's definitely like also a jab to it, right?
Gosh,
It's like which is a go-to move already 2 episodes in for Allison, is to go in on people's careers and aspirations in life.
This
like,
receptionist.
Yeah, I mean, Billy gives it back to her like, ha ha ha, you've got a degree and you're glorified. But like,
Oh, she always does it. Man.
Jesus shit, these people are like in world or in their young 20s, like that's exactly the time to, for
Yes.
like that's maybe something the show got right. Stevie young at that time. So there's this whole zeitgeisty thing, and I hung it on again in the pool party. Billy has this vision, this daydream that Marcy, who has been talking to the business of his sex world
I love
in bed
her mouth.
and out her mouth, and he starts to envision, I guess, a televised interview with Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who's sort of like an icon of the 80s into the 90s, is this eminent sexologist who is trying to normalize, like doing God's work in some ways, that like sexuality was just maybe like an aspect of your humanity in a way.
The novel concept.
And so and in the state dream, Marcy's now telling Dr. Ruth about Billy's sex world business in bed times, and it struck me it's a little Wayne diversion, and I won't, you know,
Let's divert
divert
away.
so much. Is this one of those things, producer Chris? Is this one of those things where we should be like, if you don't want to hear Wayne's bullshit, jump to, and then yeah,
No, I don't know. This one sounds good.
okay.
It's
Goes
good.
with it. Yeah.
So Singles was a big movie for me, in maybe in a parallel way to the way Melrose Place is big for you.
I think
I
so
think-
because
I think-
age-wise,
and I
you
think
were
I
the
got-
target demo for Singles.
I think I got many of the same messages. Like
Yes.
in the way I was perfectly the target demo. By my senior year, high school, junior senior year, I got to really love grunge and then into indie rock, and like that movie was this accidental little relic because it was shot in '91 before Seattle was
Oh yeah, it had exploded.
the thing that it became.
Mhm.
Like it was like just kismet. The Singles is a romantic comedy that came out in 1992, same year Melrose Place debuted.
Very much of the moment. This whole idea of like young 20-somethings, you know, this idea that you weren't immediately getting married out of college.
Yeah.
That's what I think it really kind of is.
No,
playing along
it,
with.
it's dramatizing that world while feeding in these messages about what's normative,
Yes, exactly.
how these things are done. It does happen that both, and it was like a revelation to me. And then I Googled it, and like literally at the time, Cameron Crowe was walking around with his head down, being like, "People keep saying my movie's like Melrose Place." I don't think that's an impression of him, but like that's my dramatic reading of the quotation, and which I
liked it.
by the way, I get, especially at the time, like it was very different. Like the idea, there was an entire like energy around, like, because remember, this is a monoculture. We're talking about a show on the fourth of four networks.
Yeah, exactly. There
that
weren't
you
a
could
lot
realistically get in the United States.
There weren't like really split. You couldn't even get things from other countries, and really,
And it's why they called it alternative music, even though that, like, there's this whole energy about, well, what does that even mean? But like, there was some sense of that we were coming from something outside the mainstream, outside of the monoculture, um, you know, and
and Singles.
and Singles plays in because they caught it right before it exploded.
Mhm.
So, but weirdly, it's a movie about yuppies whose just neighbors happen to be musicians, essentially. Mostly the lead characters, like, anyways, are career people, who like going out and seeing Alice in Chains at night.
Well, you know what I think it is too? It's leaving the American Psycho perspective of the 80s, of the like, you know, the
Yes.
glossy Wall Street,
Yes.
like, you know, just the Reagan era, the peak of that, and then all the disillusionment happening of, you know, we're entering into we're veering into the first Gulf War, and like it's a different time where you're now seeing young people with no blueprint, and you're seeing where things end up here now, because these are the 20-somethings who, you know, a lot of us are looking at going, what the hell happened?
Well, and Gen X, a Gen X touchstone.
Yes, exactly.
And that being this concept of the drifting directionless generation is essentially like the you know, the branding for Gen X. It's,
100%.
you know,
Yeah.
and so that plays in. But in terms of the zeitgeist, it plays in really well with what you were saying earlier about how these entertainments and pieces of art are built from a cultural moment with a lot of expectations about, in this case, romance built into them.
Mhm.
And then they go up on the screen and they teach younger people, and they
And
reflect
there's
it back to
this
people.
weird loop, and you're like, wait, what's being mirrored from
Yeah,
what's being
what's
parodied?
real here?
What's real here? And like, I honestly think that we're watching a lot of people for the first time ask themselves, like, there's no longer a monoculture, which makes it easier to have a different
easing into that.
perspective.
You're easing
And
into that.
Easing into that, exactly. And like different, and representation is important, where if you see somebody on screen behaving in a way that does make sense to you.
Yeah.
Because for me, I really did feel like as a kid, I was watching you're watching certain things, and you're realizing, oh, going up to somebody's place for coffee means, will you have sex with me? And the funny thing is, the way that everyone interacts, I actually relate to the Marcy character the most, because the directness of her weirdly makes sense to me, but also knowing where Melrose Place goes, a character like this would just
Well, she would break the game board
it
to
wouldn't
figure
be
it
fun.
out.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
be fun because so much is based in people like hiding what they feel or know. The beauty of Melrose Place.
Much like the world itself. But something I didn't get all the way through saying was that both singles in Melrose Place are about 20-somethings in a metropolitan area living in a U-shaped
Yeah.
apartment complex where like everybody's essentially single. So like there was something in the and the same way this episode feels very rom-com-y of that era. It's just like the snake eating its tail. That's what I guess I all too often refer to.
Well, also your point, making a good point where I think this is the golden era of that type of rom-com. Like, I don't think we really make rom-coms like that. Like, there aren't any anymore.
Well, I think something became so samey that was fresh then. And anyways, like we're also talking about movies that are like, and in Melrose Place, overwhelmingly white as well.
Oh, God, yes.
That's the picture of
Part of
like
the monoculture.
normative is
Well, yeah, exactly.
straight cis hetero white people
Men and women can't be friends.
living. Yes,
That
yeah,
whole
that's a big
era.
message we see. Is there anything we need to specify? So obviously Billy ends up bringing up with Marcy, and
Yes.
she's gone.
I do want to point out by the end she starts dressing like a 50s housewife. So I feel like they kind of are implying that she's sort of like Zero to Stepford. Like, she's such a cartoon in this episode. I really enjoyed it.
She was making plans. The moment where Marcy grabs Allison by the arm and
She
physically
did grab
turns her around during the pool party, she says to her, she's asking about what's happening next Friday. So she's making, and so the housewife thing is just like a that on steroids. Like,
Yeah.
Jake and Michael Donnelly had a conflict and they plumbed together.
That scene was so silly and so great because I will take photos of it because I would like to do a homoerotic take on their interaction because poor Matt so rarely gets any time to flirt or have any moments. So there's this really silly scene that I just thought was so, I don't even know that they purposely did it like that, but it really does look like Michael's got his head down around Jake's crotch, and there is a point at which it just says on the screen, because we like to watch with the captions, where it just said the both grunting. And I was like, I kind of like that moment.
It's difficult to deny. It's difficult to deny. I mean, they are like a big wrench being a phallic symbol around which all four hands wrapped.
I think it more speaks to the complete lack of sexual charisma between Michael and Jane. That like the closest that Michael gets to something remotely arousing is plumbing with Jake.
And he's not wrong.
Not wrong.
Producer Ilana thought food. She wanted to highlight a couple things with food as we like watching this
Yes,
stuff.
please.
One was the meal Michael was fixing for himself
It's so
as Jane was
offensive.
talking at him more about this non-problem about them not remembering each other. He gives her some savvy monologue and it's all done. That was ridiculous. But
I think he said, I fall in love with you every moment of every day of all the time.
Yeah.
I love you the most. I win.
yeah, sort of. Just really I mean, like
Anyways.
in a way, well, there's some stuff to talk about in the spoilers about this, but we'll get to that when we get to the spoilers, which will be different podcasts. So
I'm-
those who, yes, he makes himself what is now recognizable as the Firefest sandwich. It is just sad lettuce, tomato, American cheese, white bread, and that's what he's choosing to eat. And with it, we puzzled over this a minute, but we settled on strawberry milk.
Yes,
So Michael's
he-
making himself a meal for a child.
That is like a
Dr. Michael Mancini,
Yes.
chief resident to be, or something.
Well, actually, a child, or is that a weird hospital meal? Does Michael only know how to cook hospital food? Is this a fun theory I can introduce into the chat?
Tell us what-
little weird Jello molds.
Tell us what you think down below of
Please.
the,
Michael's
I
probably
think
very
there's
abilities.
I think we're into Web 2.0 now, and there's a comment section where you can post a comment
You
of
can
some
totally,
sort
or again,
about that.
if you're more comfortable, go outside of your home, scream into the ether, and see what happens.
That's a little what I feel like I'm doing right now.
That's what it is.
And so yes, we were going to keep an eye on this. Like, how much is Michael? Is he so baked into the medical context that it has overrun the rest of his life at this point?
I'd really love to theorize that because
Okay.
it's very silly, and I do think that the way food is shown on the show is just. I mean, the art department was just like it's having a blast. Like they were just doing whatever they felt at certain times.
Well, it gets directly to the 9.5 weeks of it all, I think. So when Billy brings Marcy, his weekend lover, into his house, they do a thing. Well, to go chronologically, as they are canoodling, there is on the mantle a fruit bowl, which turns out to be functional. And I don't know what this says about cultural assumptions, but producer Ilana and I were like, who does, like, why would you take fruit from on top of the mantle? It's strange. And
It's so close to the front doorway.
we
I
you
feel-
just can't wait to
you
eat fruit.
can't wait. Like it's like I need to grab my piece of fruit and then I put my keys just past where the fruit bowl is on the mantle. Like literally, it's a,
Billy's never lived anywhere but with his parents.
So
This because we have attributed the fruit bowl to Billy in part because there were no post-it notes
on the
on
strawberries.
any of the fruits. Strawberries, and I want to get to this because one of my favorite fruits. But like, you gotta refrigerate them, right? And what drove me crazy is Billy's gonna now do a sexy food thing with Marcy, involving a room temperature strawberry from a room temperature bowl
A
that
hepatitis
he's gonna
strawberry.
put sexily toward her lip, phallically toward her, like as if to penetrate her mouth.
I couldn't remember. Did
something.
he bite it first?
Oh God! They go soft. You got flies.
Here's what. Okay, you're bringing up an amazing point.
I'm spiraling, guys. I need help.
And then,
It's so potentially disgusting, but not necessarily.
but here's
That's what's almost more unsettling.
this is
That
what's
strawberry could have been fine.
It could have been fine, but here's the thing. Here's what I love. You're absolutely right. He takes a wild swing at the beginning of this relationship. He's like, have this fucking strawberry, have this mantleberry, as producer Chris named it.
The
it's fresh
mantleberries.
It's mantleberry season. I have a whole basket full of them. He gives it to this woman, and then here's what I love. She eats it. She goes, oh, this guy's as weird as me. They have sex. The next day, he's like, this fucking cuckoo. What is she doing? And I'm like, she's like, you fed me mantleberries in the night. How could I not be your lady, my prince? Like he's
This
like,
is the mismatch.
Oh, no.
That's why they were there. The mantleberries are the default romantic move for me.
I'm so mad that he's
Okay,
like,
so I'm gonna go deeper. Picturing Billy every morning before his cabbie shift.
watering the mantleberries. I am so
laying out fresh strawberries, freshly refrigerated from the fridge. He's like, by the time I get home, hopefully with a lady, this strawberry will be fine.
the mantleberries would be, or no. Here's what I've got.
And then at the end of the day, if he is struck out or for some reason has been, because remember, being in this apartment for Billy is about getting
Late.
Lizzie. Yeah, he's gonna slay is what Billy's gonna do. He's gonna smash. There's more verbs. There's so many verbs. And
Flies
so
everywhere.
well no, maybe this is the one respect in which he's meticulous, because this is what's going. We know that Billy has food problems. That's the other thing. This is, we didn't really talk about it last episode, but the peanut butter having to, like,
Yeah, that's right.
really briefly, Billy, this entitled son of a bitch, his view on the world is there may be conditions under which he needs to eat peanut butter right now, and his only path, if he's out of peanut butter, will be to eat the peanut butter in the fridge for some reason, which I don't think you need to do, I hope,
No, I don't.
with Allison's initial or name on it. Like, that's Billy. That's Billy with food, and that does without going too spoilersy. I think it's just fair to say you want to watch Billy and food for this guy. Which okay, I'm gonna go a little deeper, and I want to hear the Lisa take on it. But like, okay, so something we didn't talk about last time is that Andrew Shue was the second actor cast to play Billy like on the show.
Oh yes, that's right.
He replaced, I'm sure, a fine Canadian man who, I don't know if it's from the unauthorized things, trashy show,
you're
or,
not sure how
or
it
if this
came
is,
out,
or if this
but-
is fact. But
Mhm.
like, essentially, he like got cast, went home to Canada and ate too much, and showed up not being svelte enough to be the kind of Billy they were looking for.
Too many
And-
Mantleberries.
He had too many noise. And well, I mean, Mantleberries are like essentially like they're freebies.
By the
Caliban, I
way,
think.
thinking like that is what got him kicked off the show.
So, anyways, I should have looked up his name so I could do it justice. We'll put it in the episode title or pay tribute to him. I'm gonna say down below. I don't mean like touching yourself below the belt, but like internet wise. Yeah, supposedly this guy showed up one day. No one had told him, and there's Andrew Shue sitting in the Billy spot, and there's a whole thing. You can look up YouTube videos. Maybe we'll link to them where there's a point at which Andrew Shue didn't know that and found out about it,
That's so
like
messed up.
live on one of these like cast reunion things, and then he apologized to the guy, and I think went forward, like kind of acknowledged that was shitty. But point being, maybe he had a little like antenna up that like I've been brought in all of a sudden to an established cast,
And they're making me take my shirt off.
and they're making me take my
all
shirt
the
off
time.
a lot. So here's an actor who's really gotta, they you hear like Chris Hemsworth talking about they dehydrate themselves. It's terrible.
Beef jerky.
And yeah, like the food issues are a weird like layered reflection of life thing where like, I mean, I don't know how much Andrew Shue mostly, other than this and being a soccer player, was an extra in Elizabeth Shue movies.
Yeah.
There's certain things where he's perfectly Billy and Billy's perfectly him. I can't imagine another actor, but maybe he had a sense at some point that he was hanging on by a thread where
I think everybody.
5 pounds could mean the sudden recasting or writing off the show of Billy.
I mean, I think it's very real. I think the pressure was on everybody, male and female and otherwise. You're right. I think the show as a whole, the way that they treat food is like no one knows what eating is
You're
about.
alien.
It's crazy. Like you've got Michael jamming spaghetti into Jane's mouth. You got- They make these crazy meals that I mean, this is not a spoiler alert, but like, keep an eye out because like, I feel like every time I sit down for a meal, I'm like, who ate this? Sometimes you can pause on the table that's been set and you can't really guess what they're eating, what meal it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
there'll be like bowls of what might be rice.
Rice,
for
it's like,
instance.
or breakfast is always such a to-do. There's all these pieces of toast and things ready to. The toast is cold by the time people come. It's the food on the show is utter chaos, and it's such great representation of like, probably because a lot of Hollywood people. It's very much like Lucille Bluth being like, "What could a banana possibly cost? $7?" And it's like, "What could a person possibly eat for breakfast? What do they eat? Like troughs of toast?" It just seems like people don't understand
There's a gap.
human
Like,
eating.
what is research anyways? I want to say that Michael's breakfast in bed for Jane last episode, the pilot, was like just like
Chaos.
egg omelet. It was like a plain, like he just cracked, like no, like
Smell the coffee.
onions and
Oh.
yeah, nearly like,
Burning her face off.
yeah. We need to talk fashion before we go.
Oh God, please. Oh, speaking of Jane.
Jane. We have yes, we have to stay with her fashion as that is her career. The Renaissance robe, as I call it.
Is it a robe? I think you're right. Or was it a shirt?
Producer Ilana has some theories. It's like
Is
a
it
shawl.
Diane von
It's
Fursten
like
your wrap
got
dress?
sleeves. It's more defined than a shawl. But I don't think it's a jacket.
It's like a sawed-off kimono potentially.
I don't know what it is.
There was so much happening with it that at one point I realized I was deep in a discussion about the actual prints that on there, and you guys were talking about what it was. And the thing is, the whole thing was so
We were-
nebulous that neither one of us even understood we were, speaking about two completely different things. It was so crazy, this thing.
It's
It's like a jellyfish.
its format is strange. Its aesthetic is Sistine Chapel for some reason.
Well,
This was where we got kind of like talking past each other. You were saying the cherubic thing was a thing for
so
real.
if you guys remember, at least here in the United States, I don't know if it was everywhere else, but like this image of this, I feel like it was in like the early 90s, cherub, a framed picture of a cherub with like an ornate white and then like cherubs on teeth. Like, I don't know why, but in the 90s, girls were all about that cherub life. Like, there was cherub everything, and there was something about like the you would have these crazy patterns. So I could
It might have been heartthrob Michael Landon being the star of the popular network show Touched by an Angel.
oh my god, I do remember that.
I don't
That
know what
was,
I'm saying at all.
No,
Did I derail, or does that add anything? Does
No.
that give you anything to work with?
you railed. you
Slow down.
you pro railed.
We're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't know what it was from, but I feel like it was sort of it was just like, remember when the smiley face was on everything?
Yes, I do.
It was like something takes a hold,
It's again like a little bit of a snapshot.
a moment, because the Allison robe, the blue Allison robe from the pilot, like that thing was big in the night. Like everybody had that weird robe on TV and otherwise, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that cherub life.
Blue clothing cannot end this podcast without talking about Jane's swimwear at the pool party.
Oh my! Here's a couple of things that I felt about that.
Please.
Well, mine came after. Like, we all laughed. We all laughed.
Yeah, like
That was
so.
a crazy
For context, our sort of starting point for a conversation with Lisa about this scene was like, we started laughing and didn't stop for minutes, and we weren't sure why.
All of us.
When we saw this is Jane at the pool party, bowl cut Jane, fashion queen,
yes,
is
right.
in a two-piece that is just a blue plaid that's so blue and so plaid,
And her
and
skin
then
is so white, and this
boy-
blue is just intense.
boy
They're
shorts.
kind of biker boy shorts, yeah.
And like there's nothing objectionable in what I'm describing, but when you see it, it plays like a punchline. And also, we took note, she is only two colors. She's white and blue.
She is a white
It's-
and blue.
Last episode we had Kelly, red and white,
Yes, like a ghost.
and here we have our white and blue vision by the pool. Now you had things to say about the swimsuit though.
I did.
The bluest.
This
plaidest.
suit was completely ridiculous. It looked like it. Okay, it reminded me of a time when we were mixing and matching tops and bottoms arbitrarily.
Oh,
As long as they were in the same color, you were allowed, I thought, to do that. And I remember I swam competitively, so I would always have like one pieces, but like my fun suits were two pieces. And we would get this catalog. I was in Germany, so we'd get this catalog, Newport News, and I totally remember these janky little swimsuit. Like there must have been one like the Jane one, and I was like, ugh, it's perfect because it's fun on top, right? It's the little string top, but then it's kind of sort of a little more business on the bottom. And I'm realizing you don't want your swimsuit to look like you're going to two different
it's
events.
you just described the swimsuit as mullet, I think.
Yes, and also remember this is the era where the skirt existed, and this
Yeah.
weird idea of like, I think as a kid I was like, it's perfect. It's bike shorts and a swimsuit.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know,
there
multi-use.
is. It's better than it. It's better if it does two things,
Poorly.
like a TV VCR combo.
Oh my god, yes. But yeah, that suit.
So that
Are those
just
the fashions that you really wanted to tackle? Because I jumped into Jane, but I feel like
no,
you made
no, no, no. Well, did we properly get through the swimsuit, producer Ilana?
How'd you feel about that?
We've,
Yeah.
we've established. Okay, great. So, that was actually for that we had for where fashion notes on the main cast. We've already talked about our Betsy Johnson extra,
Oh yes, I loved her.
magical. Another sort of focus pulling extra. Those who feel like it, this is around 2048 in the episode.
Oh yes.
When Jake's hitting the clink for being, a
He was
violent
very
idiot at
busy.
the unemployment office. just for a moment, you see this woman in straps, and there's a red thing hanging off her shoulders, and this may be endemic of like who we are, like even like go back to the singles thing and why it was so perfect for me at the time is like I'd really missed most of the Gen X stuff. That's the age I was all that shit had happened. It seemed.
Yes.
I was just like kind of like I was just having it sort of drift back to me. And so anyways, if you were raised in similar circumstances to the producer Ilana and me, you watched Night Court, which was a funny sitcom set at a night court. And I won't go too long on that other than to say what is specific that relates back to this episode is
Yes.
that in terms of that whole like establishing tropes, establishing schema for us when we're young.
Yes.
Every episode of Night Court, it seemed, there was whatever main cases drove the funny haha plot, but there were always extras. The other cases on the docket were always ladies of the night, were sex workers.
Yes.
And it was a very specific wardrobe that became, I think, maybe it existed a little bit before, but like for us, that was sort of the trope definer, was Night Court, was like possibly a crazy wig or just a lot of hair. Like things are tight, they're strapped, they're kind of layered.
In a comedic setting.
In a comedic
too.
setting,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, but it's, I mean, and it's like, we could get into like real world stuff about how it's like another way of devaluing these
Yeah.
women's lives, right? Because now it's like cheap hooker. But,
Yeah.
like,
It's
what
interesting.
do you see in our default red strappy being manheld by a cop sex worker?
It's again, I feel like it's such a great, you really have dissected it very well, I think, because we're of the era where we did not know a life without television. Our parents were at the very beginning of that, and
Yeah.
so they were
That's
alive.
that's the internet for us.
That's-
We're the
exactly.
ones we've talked about that, where we remember what it was like before, and we appreciate, and we kind of know how. Speaking for myself, I kind of know how. At least definitely knows how to do the internet,
But I know, yeah, exactly. You have a foot in both worlds.
and that's the previous generation was the cusp of
Pre-TV.
like not having a TV and to having TV be a thing.
And then from black to white to color. And
Yeah.
so I think, kind of recognizing that you see that like these tropes, again, the conversation about representation mattering is like, for me and for you, that's my introduction to what a sex worker is and looks like for the first time. It is being characterized by this person who is passing by on screen for a second. And you pointed out something really great. It's like, God, they handle her so rough. Like, it's just, it really is the thing of looking at Melrose Place as this. These are arcade writings on the wall. It's like, oh wow, he's bonking her on the head with that club and dragging her. It's like
It's the reflections of life. It is the instructions for life that we get out of it, of like
Yeah.
how things run. So I wanted to introduce Pouchon, and I wanted to introduce something new that maybe we could do every episode.
oh, I'm on board.
The question to the panel is, what is the worst thing that Allison did this episode in your mind?
You know what? Oh, this is great. Thank you so much.
Because you've done a deep dive for the listening audience. Lisa, she's got a reading of Allison. Trust me, she's got a reading of Allison.
Is there? Oh God. Okay, great. Producer Chris reminded me of something. Here's what I think I will do. I think I've already talked a little bit about her complete inability to express herself in an adult, clear fashion to either her adult roommate, the woman with whom he is sleeping, and literally everyone else. That drives me crazy.
Mhm.
But I gotta say, this scrunchie at the bottom of a low ponytail. This is
You don't think that was an all day that slipped down? You think that was a choice? That was
choice.
specifically done.
That was a choice because of seeing that choice. And here's what we know to be true. The tensile strength of the elastic, after it has been wrapped over that many times, you're telling me that you're intentionally wanting to hold it at this weird. It's so that I can, what
It takes more. It takes
you
more
want
time.
the fullness of the poof here, because she had a series of. this hairstyle, this whole hairstyle was so complicated because we have the spray of bangs and then the top thing, and then there's a top part.
Sometimes you get tied back and there's like two I'm busy bangs.
She's too busy.
Sometimes she looks like Richard Marx kind of from the era. From the early
Yes.
the
But honestly,
yes.
the scrunchie
The
looking like
scrunchie.
it's gonna fall off the bottom of her ponytail, that drove me crazy.
So I had a more conventional straight on take on it, but I want to get your feedback certainly.
I'm very excited.
Just watching her get mad at these people who, by the way, speaking of passive aggressive, she completely Marcy canoodling. Allison asks if they want her to leave.
Oh my god, this woman.
But anyhow, so she's completely unable to do the right confrontation in that moment. But she feels free to just like a bolt, just like a bull charge through the door of the Mancini
Oh my
apartment
god.
and rail on and on about she can't believe that they're doing this to her, and it's like this lack of self-awareness, you know, like she almost literally just says, can you imagine someone being so rude as just to come into your house without your permission? It's like, lady.
And then proceeds to spend the night there. She treats Melrose Place like a dorm.
Yeah, well, and I think there's that aspect that I don't think is well developed at this point enough that her and Jane might have a friendship.
Oh, that's
We
right.
got
yes.
Jane like with her like hot date night thing that like we've discussed.
She's like, oh, you interrupted us.
More about how that
Lies.
marriage
We
is
were fighting.
more about how that marriage is just effing broken.
It just
So
worded so loud. Sorry, come on.
producer Ilana's got her hands up because she has a vote for the worst thing that Allison did.
That Allison did this episode.
I love it.
She did not support the woman in payroll who filed charges against
Oh,
Creepy Hal.
Libby in payroll. So something we haven't discussed.
So quickly. So much happens in this episode. You're
So
absolutely
and yet
right.
nothing happens because the main conflicts are just non.
Disappear. They gave up.
She did not corroborate that woman's story.
You're so
That
right.
was
She
my
should have been-
job.
Yeah,
Couldn't be bothered.
Libby from
Couldn't be
payroll.
bothered. That's
To-
a really great point.
To catch the listener up, if you haven't watched the episode yet, right near the beginning, we got some hangover from last episode, and Hal the Creep, who like essentially was performing it was like an essay in the apartment, and on Allison,
Yes.
who is up the food chain at work, like just terrible. And what's she gonna do about it? She has a confrontation with him about, well, I might just tell, and he shrugs it off. And like it's not great writing, let's face it.
It's not great
He
writing.
walks off. This lady, who unfortunately we never see again, shows up to deliver the news that he's dead in the water at D&D because Libby from payroll has filed a complaint.
Because a braver woman who is direct and not passive aggressive had the confidence. And by the way, not to shame anybody who doesn't have
Can we
confidence.
play?
Except Allison. She's the only one who deserves to be shamed. Everyone else is fine.
I feel like we need to find music to play under some of the things Lisa says about Allison. Like, I just really hear the trumpets and timpanis. It
It's
doesn't
the
have to be.
Hurricane
Yeah. Because Allison's the Antichrist.
Oh my God. Sorry. Not
Oh
to
yes,
interrupt too
no,
much.
it's not interrupting. This is our show, and I want to hear it.
Thank you, but like again, I always like to do honorable mentions for extras who stand out.
Okay.
The glee with which this woman delivered the lines that this man's career was dead in the water. She was delightful. She, from the beginning to end, she was so great. She gave me all the energy that I want of a little tattletale, a little chismosa, a little lady who is just like, oh, did you hear? I just wanted to say I thoroughly enjoyed her, especially the contrast of her with mopey ass Allison. Oh, so delightful.
Well, it's a fun way for her to be a vehicle to deliver exposition and like instantly resolve a plot line. But yes,
Amazing.
one of the few black faces on screen
100%.
is like, you know,
A breath of
where's her show?
I know.
Why are we following this particular like asshole?
I want to watch
Day?
100%. I want to watch the show where she's just popping into every cubicle going, did you hear that so and so in accounting has been stealing? I mean, oh, just
Yeah,
like,
another.
you know, also, what a total tangent, but again, Ghost, a movie where why aren't we following the lady who can talk to ghosts exclusively? I don't care about this couple. What's her life? She just found out that she can see ghosts.
No, she's just, you know, there's a whole trope. She was the magical one there.
She
for
was the
that.
magical one. I'm
That
like, let's
was,
have
like,
her. Oh, so great.
So, do you feel confident to take a look at some quotations right now? Is there something we
I
haven't
would.
talked about that really belongs in this episode?
No,
You're gonna
I
reach
mean,
magically off and
let's see here.
come back.
Allison's hair, Jake's abs, Billy's shoulders, Jane's bowl cut, Michael's book. Michael's
Yeah,
book.
Michael.
I mean,
Well, he
I feel
does
good.
briefly. Michael, puts on some spectacles,
Oh, that's right. You know.
and it is like if it's like Superman and Clark Kent, this is like he's earnest.
Yes, he's
This is-
Dr. Mancini.
and it is when he gives the monologue. Let's see. Yeah, so maybe you should do the first one.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you.
Jane
Oh, Jesus.
giving advice to Billy about his budding romance.
This idiot.
It's no typos there. Just say what's on the paper
I
for
know.
real. Jane.
Fully
you-
verbatim. Falling in love is the single most greatest experience a man and woman ever can have. This is, I feel, do you watch Recess Therapy on Instagram? It's a man who interviews 5-year-olds on the playground,
Yes.
asking them like
Yes.
life questions.
I don't know this, but that's what I'm seeing there too. That is the
I
view.
like corn.
This is a view of again. He's
Falling
ma-
in love is the single most greatest experience a man and woman ever can have.
This is much as her husband eats like a child, she loves like a child, I suppose.
It's also incredibly heteronormative, and
Oh yeah,
and-
granted.
and by the way,
Sorry, Matt. Like you should stop it.
this is no one will know except those who do.
Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. You're right though. You're
If
the,
you know,
the
you know.
listeners ain't even gonna know actually.
You know.
Easter egg in the video, but don't look at me. I'm a monster. Okay, I'm gonna take this one.
Please.
It's apropos very little. I think this was Jake to Michael. You know, sometimes I just don't know how to handle things. You know.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
True. This episode is Jake not knowing how to handle things in progress, all over the place, yelling at children,
For the man
riding
who
a
brought
motor,
you,
looking like a nerd on a motorbike.
this is the follow-up to, I hate moral dilemmas.
This is the same from the producers of I Hate Moral Dilemmas comes. Sometimes I just don't know how to handle things. Bookended by you know.
Here's what I'm wondering. I feel like this first, might not have been on the page, and then he got to the end of that sentence, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't a question," and my acting partner, is gonna have to so he quickly threw the in there, and because there's no way there's supposed to be two you-knows. Actually, for the people who brought you Charles Nelson Reilly acting class, maybe
Or
I'm
this
wrong.
is finally drawn, that this is exact. Anyways,
This is great.
so now this is Lisa. Please now this in the voice of Allison aggressively about Marcy.
She is the most aggressive woman I've met. Is this in the middle of Jane and Michael's living room in the middle of the night when she's
I
barged
think
in?
it's at the pool part. I think it's.
Okay.
She says that she's the most aggressive woman I've ever met, and
That is amazing.
but says it so producer Ilana was taken aback, if you will, by the aggressiveness of how she said it. And I think we've agreed. Do you feel like doing like a little bonus podcast after this where we
I would
talk to the people who don't mind looking at the whole scope of the show?
I would absolutely love
So for those of you who are straddling the fence or maybe want to are spoiler curious, there's more to say about Allison and
Yes.
aggressive women, I think.
Oh,
The final
God.
quotation we have today, and then we will thank you all for just being lovely enough to listen to this point. This is Billy about Marcy. Here's the crux of their little fun rom-com. I have a real problem here. She's in love with me.
The curse of the Mantleberry.
It is, you know,
Once you bite the fruit of the Mantleberry.
yeah, yeah. It's that room temperature strawberry does things to a person, and so this has been season 1, episode 2 of Melrose Madness, talking about season 1, episode 2, Lovers and Friends of the '90s evening soap Melrose Place that we both love ever so much. Lisa, just a little coffee cheers to you. It's been so fun talking to you about this.
What a delight. Hey, I don't know if we'll ever be lovers, but I would love for us to be friends.
Hey, thanks.
You're right. This is madness.